Just listen.
Able to achieve greater than that, I need to think beyond what I've ever thought. I have to practice beyond what I've ever practiced. I have to work harder than I've ever worked.
Tell me how has the lockdown been for you guys?
Yeah, I think it's something that I kept telling myself from day one was something that the entire world is facing, something that not just you and I are facing, it's something we all have to go through. And it's a pandemic that hit the entire world. So for me to try and have a selfish or a weighed outlook towards it would be quite silly. So from day one, I tried to have a open mind towards the pandemic and seek opportunities to help others. I mean, I'm in a very fortunate position. I'm in a position where I feel I'm blessed, I'm privileged, and there's so much people with nothing, and there's so much people out there that needs our help, that needs um us to I mean help them with simple things like food and feeding them. And now with the winter hitting so hard, how cold it is, I mean, I'm trying to be a helping hand. I'm trying to be uh someone that can contribute in a positive way. That's why I try to get involved in quite a few charitable works and so on. And don't know if you've seen some of the things that we've done with Sia. I think he's been doing amazing things and been a massive inspiration for every one of us.
Yeah.
Of what this pandemic can mean for us and what we can do during this opportunity, and somewhat create a foundation that will stay. You know what I mean? Something that will last forever, not just during pandemics, but will last for years to come, where we can feed our people and look after our people. I mean, we've got a nation filled with a variety of greatness, if I could put it that way. If you can be example of it, and I think I can also somewhat of a testimony of the greatness that South Africa possesses. And this is an opportunity now for us to look after our people, and I'm using this as a inspiration to create a platform for myself as well, so that I can give back to my community and give back to people of South Africa. And that's kind of how I've looked out onto the whole lockdown pandemic situation, and at the same time stay focused on where I need to be, and my goals and what I'm working towards. So I think basically that's where my heart and mind has been at during this time.
It must be quite nice though, because with you being a professional sportsman, the focus is always on yourself. It's always about your training and your fitness and your recovery. For you to have a bit of a break from that and just pay some attention to someone else, that must be quite nice.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, also not even being in a team sport. I mean, an individual sport. So that selfish mentality is something that is built onto you within this last few years, is what Wayde needs, what I need to do to improve me physically, mentally, spiritually, however else. And I feel like if we don't look at that part of our lives, um, we might miss out on that holistic growth that you need as an individual and as a person, that plays a role on and off the track. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
mean, there's some of the sports guys that we're looking at now, mentioning Sia again, looking at what Marcus Rashford's done in England, and a lot of the other sports people have done right around the world. I mean, it's example of who am I on and off the track, and that's the brand that I want to build for myself as well as an individual and as an athlete and as a sports person, is what do I stand for on and off the track. So you know the beast and the animal, or the hardworking or powerful athlete that you're working towards on the track, but you also need to work on a character off the track that would resonate with people, and that will somewhat build a relationship with people off the track. And I feel that's very important, and this period helps, I think, a lot of us athletes to look at that and to consider that, and who am I beyond track and field? Who am I when there's no more sports? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's important for us to consider these things and try and get that characteristics that you feel is important for you as a sportsman and for you as a person.
Yeah, for sure. I think for a lot of people, this is a time where you can really reset and say, well, what am I doing in my life? What do I want to do with my life? Who am I, as you say, outside of my job or your career? And it's a time of reflection. And if there's anything positive that's come out of this thing, it's maybe firstly to allow people to reflect, but secondly for people like us to see the other side of you guys as athletes, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I think I mean, the reality is that we all are human. We all are people just like everyone else, although there's somewhat of a responsibility that's come with what we've achieved and what we've accomplished in life, which is something that I doubt any top sportsman takes lightly. But at the same time, we're human. We also have dreams, we also have goals, we also have areas we'd like to secure, we also have insecurities, and we also have our flaws. And it's this time of life where these things are highlighted, where these things are put out there for more than just you to see. And the question is now, what do I do and what do we do as individuals and as people to overcome that and to come out of it positive. Something that I speak to my coach about a lot, and something that she's mentioned to me from day one, is what is your foundation that you're going to put out in this. And something that she always emphasizes on every off season is, what foundation are we putting in for the next year or 2 or 3 or 4. And this is a time where we need to put in into that foundation of what what do you want Wayde to be tomorrow, the year after that, the year after that. And it's very important for us as individuals, and for me as well. I've highlighted it for myself to see what is needed for me to be the best Wayde possible, and what needs to be put into my foundation, what positive contributions is needed, what physical contributions is needed, and that will make that holistic Wayde, and the one that I'll feel proud of, and the one that I'll feel happy with when it comes to me back on the track again and beyond that.
Yeah, so that was going to be my next question, is, has this period of time given you some time to reflect on what maybe happens to Wayde after athletics and after your career?
Yeah, the crazy thing is, I mean, if you've been following my career now, it's no secret that I've somewhat been in a lockdown for the last 2 years, being injured. So to me, this is just continuing what I've been building on this last 2 years now. Had the massive injury. It took me about 2 years to start feeling normal again. This is entering my third year now, where I was hoping to compete at a competitive level now. And I'm still sitting now, going on to my third year, hoping and waiting and just building that hunger towards competing again. And I'm extremely hungry to compete again. I'm extremely motivated to get back on the track. But with that, I had a lot of time to invest in areas and into opportunities that will help me grow as a sportsman and as an athlete. I've invested in a few properties. I've been educating myself about properties. I've somewhat developed a creative love for designing when it comes to properties and interior designing and so on. And it's something that's interest me a lot. And also being able to find a way to continue marketing myself as a sports person and as an athlete. Obviously, you've seen that for this last 2 years, I've been very low key, been very on the down low. And now within this next with this next on to this third year of not competing, I need to slowly but surely start showing what I've been working on and showing what where I want to go in life, and also create a image that will last me for the next 10 years as an athlete and as a sports person, and then use that as a foundation to what's in store for me beyond track and field.
Do you feel there's a lot of pressure on you for the return? Do you think there's a lot of expectation on you? And then personally, what type of pressure are you putting on yourself for that?
Look, the reality is, whether you like it or not, as a sports person, there'll always be pressure. Whether you're trying to run away from it or avoid it, or just trying to ignore that there's a pressure to being a professional sports person, you're going to be quite ignorant. But the reality also is there's a pressure in everyday life for each and every one of us. I mean, for myself personally, I'm probably my worst enemy when it comes to criticizing myself, putting pressure on myself, or expecting perfection from myself, hard works, and so on. And I constantly reflect on where I'm going and if I'm doing the right things, if I'm working hard enough or not. And these things are highlighted on a continuous basis to me, because of me. I've always taken time to just sit back and see where I'm going and if I'm happy with where I'm going. And uh, it's now at a point where you need to find the peace within every single chaos you're going through. Because if you're going to allow that to become a pressure, a negative pressure, it's going to become something that's going to throw you down. So I'm trying to direct myself and my brand and me as a sports person into a place where when pressure comes, it's one that's positive, one that I can handle, one that is part of the game. I mean, part of the sports, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of unexpected things. And for me, I just want to make sure that I'm directed in a way where I continue controlling my controllables. And as you know, I'm a very faithful person, a firm believer in the Lord, and so on, and directing myself into where I am spiritually, and where I guess God is leading me, and where God wants me to go. And I'm just trying to stay calm and as vigilant as possible, so that I take the right or make the right decisions and take the right routes to where I want to go in life. And I mean, that's probably something that people beyond sports can relate to. With sports, I think it's a bit easier, because you can say, okay, Olympics is next year, I'm working towards something. But a lot of times people are working towards something that you need to have a lot of faith for, and a lot of a visual, somewhat of a dream. Where with me, I know Olympics is where I'm going to, next year's Diamond League, next year is this, next year is that. And I've got somewhat of a set schedule that I can work around, and I can fix my vision onto, and my goals onto. And I mean, it's something that I should see as a blessing, not as a pressure. Something that I can work towards. There's so much people that has so much talent and potential, but they don't know where they want to take it.
So do you think, being in the position you are, as you said, the privileged and fortunate position, you have a sense of a responsibility to fulfill that, in order to show those that don't have it that it can be done, and there is hope out there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's something that, I guess, being one of the kickoffs in track and field, if I could put it that way, or beginning generation that kind of broke into this powerhouse sprinting image of track and field for South Africa. I mean, we know that we had a lot of talented field athletes. We had a lot of talented 800-meter athletes, and there was now and then like the Elia van Sales, the Morne Nagels, the hurdlers, and so on. There was now and then guys that were up in the top 10, if I could put it that way, or in the top range of track and field athletes. And now I've broke into a category where it's somewhat the elite of the elite, where you now are the best of the best. You're now competing for number one year in and year out. And this is something that I believe has opened up somewhat of a door for a lot of South Africans. I mean, that's why you see South Africans breaking records left, right, and center right now. And the same time where you're seeing individuals and athletes believing now in breaking records, world records, not just South African records. And I guess somewhat being or taking that as a responsibility and not taking that lightly, it does give me a lot of motivation and hunger to continue doing this, and to be the one that set this example and the one that's taken it to the next level, that where somewhat I can become out of reach, and somewhat I can show more and more South Africans that we are and we can become the greatest in the world, and we can become world record holders, a powerhouse nation, a first world country, simply just by doing me. You know what I mean? And I know that it's a massive vision, but I mean, there's no growth in it if you don't if you don't speak like that for yourself. You don't put that out into your life and into your world. I mean, I'm not out here trying to be speaking what I've achieved, uh, speaking it down, because what I have put out there is something massive out there in the track and field world. If I'm going to speak about it as if it's something light or something weak, then that's what my performance is going to be once I get back on the track. You know what I mean? So I need to stand firm in what I've put out there. You know what I mean? If I'm gonna be talking about, oh yeah, it's just the record, or just see myself as not up there with the world's best, and being somewhat ashamed of what I've achieved, simply because I come from an unprivileged country, or a country that doesn't have great in the international sprinting uh, uh, tier that was out there before I've been there, and put myself at a level where I know I shouldn't be mentally. It's not going to do me any justice, you know what I mean? And it's not going to do the next generation coming through any justice, because they need to believe in where they want to go, and believe where they're going, and what greatness South Africans can possess and achieve. You know what I mean? We've got such great talented sports people, and we need to stand firm in it. I mean, look at the rugby, look at the cricket, and I mean, we even have some greats in our football, the likes of Stephen Pienaar, Benny McCarthy, and the greats before that. And if us as South Africans don't jump onto that and hold on to the great examples that there's been, then we're not going to grow as a country and as individuals. And I feel like I need to put up that image for myself personally, and also for those that see me as inspiration, because I might not see myself as inspiration because I'm constantly working on something, but there might be that next young superstar coming through in the future, and yeah, I'm taking what I'm doing very lightly, and I could have been such a great example or a foundation for the next world record holder. And I'm trying my best to be a good example, and to be uh, the most positive individual that I can be, to help the next great South African in whichever sphere or goals or targets they have for themselves.
That mentality that you've just mentioned. So we often go into this trap where if you speak about your achievements, or you proud of your achievements, you're scared to come across as arrogant or not humble or something. But what you've said now is you realize you have to own it in order to inspire the others and show them that, you know, you can do this if you take it seriously. Is that
Yeah,
mentality something you think you were born with, or is that something you've learned recently?
not at all. Uh, I mean, you know it. We somewhat grew up together in school, and we've been associated for a few years in school, and confidence was something that I struggle with a lot. And I'm one of the first guys that would have associated a mentality like that with arrogance, because it seems boastful, or it seems too much, or it seems too above. But to be honest with you, that's how you need to think. This is just me putting out my mind out into in an interview. You know what I mean? This is me just being transparent as I can be. But the fact is, you can't tell yourself I'm not good or I'm not worthy of something and expect a opposite reaction out of it. You know what I mean? You can't tell yourself I'm just good enough to make the finals, but you're expecting a gold medal. You know what I mean? You need to tell yourself I'm a gold medalist. I'm worthy of breaking world records. I'm worthy of achieving great things. And like you've mentioned as well, is this something that I was born with? No, no, it wasn't, because I went through a big stage of my life where I felt extremely ashamed of what I've achieved, because my cousin doesn't have the same blessings as what I have. Even my parents doesn't have the same blessings that I have, and it becomes something where you somewhat hide away or hide behind all the greatness that you've achieved, and it won't do you any justice. It will just make you stay stagnant where you are and who you are and what you've achieved. And if you want, I mean, what I've achieved is not something that any other person in the entire world has achieved. For me to be able to achieve greater than that, I need to think beyond what I've ever thought. I have to practice beyond what I've ever practiced. I have to work harder than I've ever worked. To be able to put your mind in that position, or put your body or your mentality into that position, you need to believe in something that nobody else believes in. You know what I mean? And being or having such a massive lack of confidence and still breaking the world record tells me that I still have so much room for improvement. You know what I mean? And I've had 2-3 years now to work on that and to improve that, to come back stronger than I've ever been, and to go out and break my record again, and rewrite history in all three events that I want to improve in. And the only way I can do that is through my mentality, because physically I have that abilities. Physically I have the strength. I just need to believe in it.
Yeah. So often I see that someone that's good at a sport or has achieved something, as you said, they almost feel guilty for having that, and guilty for achieving what they've achieved, specifically coming out of our country and like you were saying, the situations you grew up in. Do you think that's part of why so little of our talented athletes in either sport has really come up and not just made it to an international stage, but made it to be the best on that international stage?
I think that's a quite a, I wouldn't be able to answer that question properly, because there's such a broad view to it, if I could put it that way. There's so much elements to becoming a professional sports person. I mean, opportunities play a big role, exposure plays a big role, mental plays a big role, physically plays a big role. There's so much areas that I probably haven't even mentioned now as well that plays a massive role in you becoming a professional sports person. I mean, if I had to run in South Africa for the rest of my life, or if I only had the opportunity to only run in South Africa my entire sporting career, do you think I would have reached the heights that I have? If I didn't get to expose myself to the likes of the Kirani James and LaShawn Merritts, do you think I would be able to push my body to that limit to be able to break a world record? You know what I mean? And that type of exposures are very important for the next generation in sports people, and something that I also feel very passionate about, getting our sports people exposed to that. I mean, most of our young kids only know South Africa. You know what I mean? They only know, I mean, a person from Cape Town would feel like Johannesburg is overseas to them. A person in Johannesburg will feel Bloemfontein is overseas to them. And that's the mentality we grow up in, where overseas actually means exposing yourself to the entire world, where the mentalities of South African kids today is Johannesburg is me. I remember, I think it was probably when I was in primary school, my first national competition was in Bloemfontein. You won't understand how that inspired me. And today, Bloemfontein and Cape Town is nothing to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if kids don't, if South African kids don't get exposed to stuff like that, then they would always be trapped in that box of what their society teaches them, when there's actually a way bigger world out there to inspire us. And there's so much more elements to becoming a great sports person than anything else. I mean, if I use something as Cheslin Colby as example, someone that whose journey I also feel very personally related to, if if he had to stay at the Stormers for very long, you think that he'll be appreciated the way he is today as a Springbok and as an international sports person, because he was exposed to things that he wasn't exposed to over here. Because his example before that was Gio Aplon, and Gio Aplon never had those type of exposures, if I could put it that way. You know what I mean? And for a while he was caught or trapped in that example that he has for himself. You know what I mean? So are we gonna continue trapping ourselves in that little box of greatness is being the best in South Africa, or are we gonna try and expand our dreams out of our comfort zones to say, you know what, I want to be the greatest in the world? And that's something that without me even trying, I had the opportunities to expose myself to that, and I see it as a God-given blessing. Because if I still had to be that young kid that just grew up in Cape Town and just went by life as life should be taking me, I'll probably be sitting in an office somewhere and just being content with the life that God has given me. Meanwhile, I'm destined to be the greatest in the world at a specific gift and talent. And it's so important for us to go and expose ourselves to more than just our comfort zones.
There's an interesting study that's been done about when a country hosts the Olympic Games or hosts the World Cup, the knock-on effect it has 10, 12 years down the line, because the kids in that country at that stage are exposed to exactly what you're saying, a winning of a World Cup or so many international athletes coming to their hometowns. And they've done like the London Games and I think Tokyo and those games, not Tokyo, 2008 one, I can't remember where it was. They did the study and they're interested to look at how many of the athletes from the host country in 2008 come through now in 2020 and win medals. And one of the examples they even used is the Springboks winning the World Cup in 2007 and then 12 years later again, because the kids that were in a critical stage that time between the ages of 15 and 18 watched the Springboks win the World Cup, and that's the same age group that are 27 to 30 now who played for South Africa in the 2019 World Cup. So it would be interesting to see with the group of sprinters that have come through now, yourself specifically, and then Akane, Simbine, and all these guys, Jobodwana, if there's a knock-on effect, seeing you guys perform so well on the world stage, if in 10, 12 years we have another burst of exciting sprinters coming through.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there is somewhat a lot of truth to that. I mean, that's why our rugby structure is as powerful as it is today. This is something that's been here since 1995, 1994. Even before that, we've had such a rich culture of rugby, and it's something that's been inspired from generation to generation. And it's something that now every kid looks up and says, even I at a stage thought I want to be a Springbok one day. And probably could have been if I invested my time there and invested my opportunities there, to be a Springbok, because that's kind of the culture that we have, and that's kind of where our strengths lay as a country. And my reality also is that if it wasn't for the likes of a Jobodwana being at the Olympic Games and making the finals and medaling at these international in these international competitions, then I would have probably not also been sparked to say, you know what, if he can do it, I just ran against him a few months ago, and I competed against him quite powerfully, and I gave him a tough time. There's days where I beat him, there's days where he beat me. And if he didn't show us by example that, hey, we can be in the finals, we can medal, I probably wouldn't then have envisioned myself as a South African to say, in the sprinting race today, I can also compete against a Justin Gatlin. I can also compete against a Usain Bolt. I can also compete against a LaShawn Merritt, Kirani James. You can name all the great sports or sprinters out there. If it wasn't for them showing us by example that we can be next to these greats, then we'd probably not have broken, or I probably wouldn't have broken the barriers that I have. And I will always respect and honor those great sports people that came before me. You know what I mean? The guys that competed against the Maurice Greens, the these are guys that inspired us as young kids, just looking at sports and watching sports. And I mean, even thinking now of football, how much I enjoy watching football and love watching football today. If it wasn't for the Ronaldinhos or the Brazilians back then that I admired a lot, I would probably not appreciate watching or supporting or associating myself with football the way I am right now. So these great sporting moments and events plays a big role. I'm thinking back to 2014 and 15. There would probably be days where our heats and semifinals would become one because there wasn't enough people to fill up lanes. And right after I broke the world record, I had to wait for heats, semifinals, and finals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that all happened in our country, and it's a ripple effect of what we're going through. And I mean, those type of things will then up the quality of sports people that come through in our system, because now the competition is higher right here at home.
Yeah. I want to backtrack just a little bit, and just chat about your upbringing. So I know you grew up in Cape Town and then you went to Bloem. How much of your upbringing do you think played a role in the mentality you have today?
I could say it's maybe that's why I became an individual sport person. I don't know. I don't dwell on it that much, but we moved a lot. We in Cape Town, I probably moved twice. Then we moved to Johannesburg. I mean, not Johannesburg, to Bloem. Then from Bloem, we moved to Johannesburg. From Johannesburg, I moved back to Bloem. And I think this time of my life was probably the most constant, if I could put it that way, where I can say now I've been living in Bloem for so much years. But before that, you move around a lot, so you obviously become a bit of a loner. You become a bit of someone that just uh, thinks of like, I think that's why when we spoke about it earlier as well, your mentality is what is needed to be done to make sure that Wayde becomes successful. But because of a long time, you had to be alone. It's just myself, my parents, and my siblings. You know what I mean? And I think we all kind of separated with ages and so on. So you never had someone the same age as you that goes through struggles with you, that goes through challenges with you, and so on. So a lot of things you had to do on your own, and I think that's why I've done so well. Maybe, I don't know. I have to speak to a psychologist, but maybe that's why I've been doing so well in an individual sport, because I've somewhat practiced for years and years and years since a young kid what needs to be done to make sure that Wayde gets through this. You know what I mean? And I guess it could be that my childhood, but also when you speak about childhood, you have to consider your genes, your family, where you come from, and that's something that I also consider all the time. And if I think of track and field and the sporting blessings that my family have, then yes, it was probably a sign that I would have been a great sports person or a great athlete, if I look at the amazing gifts and talents that my family has.
Talent is obviously critical, especially in something like sprinting. You know, I can practice sprinting as much as I want. I'll never become as fast as you, or maybe, we never know. But what else is it? Because you've obviously said now your genes have shown that you probably would have become a successful sports person, but there must be more to it. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, what do you consider some of the contributors to your success, apart from the hard work and the talent? What else is there or has happened that it contributed to your success?
Yeah, it's difficult, but I think first of all, God, the fact that He just blessed me with such an amazing gift and such an amazing talent, and then also my associations, the people I was around, the people I was directly I associated with, which would for a long time, like I mentioned, was my family. So from my biggest, I know that from my biggest inspirations would probably be my stepdad. He's someone that I had to communicate with all the time, someone that I had to learn from all the time. And he had a big love for track and field. And then secondly would probably be my mom, which obviously was more of a mom and son relationship. So when I grew up and started achieving great things and so on, I think back to the contributions that they've had, and then also, I guess, having a younger brother that was so competitive and so had so much potential and talent, uh, kept me on my feet. You know what I mean? Kept me wanting to keep my standard high and so on. And then onto that, I had more siblings coming through that also was very gifted and also very talented and so on. So my standard had to stay high at all times. You know what I mean? So that competitiveness within my family alone was something that kept me going. And then also, I guess, with their guidance and with their support and just their presence during this last or during the years of me breaking through, and also where it's taken me today and where we are at today. If it wasn't for their presence and their support, I feel like, which is also a very important factor to, I believe, where I am today. And then, like I mentioned earlier as well, at a young age, being able to be exposed to all sorts of things. I mean, it started off to me traveling to Bloemfontein to actually end up moving to Bloemfontein, traveling to Johannesburg, traveling to all sorts of different provinces in the country. And then from there, my first my first international competition in 2010 was in Canada, and getting a fourth place, just losing out by a few splits on a bronze medal, uh, sparking more inspiration in my life and sparking more um, um, hunger to my sports and where I want to be. And then, I mean, even something as silly as being, or I wouldn't even call it silly, but something as powerful as being associated to Grey College. I know we've got that in common. If we look at the sports people that came out of that school alone, and even the great sports people that we were in classes with, if you think back to, I mean, all these great guys that's playing now for Cheetahs, playing all over the world. Uh, it's massive. And if you don't take those opportunities and, I guess, grasp the reality of being associated to all these things, then you might miss out on it. You know what I mean? There's guys that we know that didn't reach their potential simply because of their taking the opportunities back then for granted. But I'm glad that I'm one of those that was patient enough to look after this God-given gift. I mean, in school, I identified that I was good enough with sports, and look where it's brought me today.
So, talking about school, you were one of the quiet boys in school, one of the quieter guys in the class, very unassuming, very unopinionated at the time, and very few people ever knew at what level your athletics actually was, because you never spoke about it and it was never a big thing. Even going to Canada, I have to think back carefully if I even remember that you were there during school. Um, when did you start believing, but I can not only just win South African things, but I can actually, when did that confidence come to you?
Mm-hmm. I think that final 2 years of school was definitely a big factor in me believing that. That's when I broke through into the international stage as well. I know that in 2010 was the year that I just missed out on the international medal, and the year right after that I won the South African Senior Championships as a junior. And back then it was something that's never been done before, and it was quite it was quality athletes back then. I wouldn't say best in the world, but I mean they were up there competing against the best in the world. And being able to or beat them that the year 2011 really sparked a big confidence in me. It sparked a big kind of seal the deal type of emotion within me to say, you know what, this is my gift, this is where I'm going, and this is what I'm going to focus in. I mean, being in great college, you know that rugby is something that we all wanted to do, were hoping to be the next big Springbok or whatever else. And here I am busy competing against guys that are competing internationally, and I'm beating them, and I'm only a junior. And that's when I realized that, hey, you've got something here, you've got a gift, you got a talent, and or what you're gonna do with it. You know what I mean? And that's when I guess I started trying to make moves and trying to make choices that will get me focused on this. And I think Bloom also played a massive role in me focusing on where I want to go and what I want to achieve. I mean, as you know, it's a very small city. Everything is 20 minutes away. So you can stay focused on where you want to go and what you want to do without being distracted by all sorts of other things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it was a big uh, contribution to where I am today.
So, given the fact that you already won the SA champs, seniors champs, when you were in, what was it, grade 11 or matric,
Yeah,
did that
yeah.
make the sacrifices you had to make for your career a lot easier? Giving up things like rugby, maybe giving up time with friends. Is it because you knew from an early age that this is something great? This is something bigger than just the next big SA star?
Yeah. I guess it. I mean, once you find your purpose, something like a sacrifice is easy. Once you find a gift or something that you love, you don't see it as sacrifices anymore. You just see it as it's part of the game and where I'm going. You know what I mean? uh, one thing I can tell you is that when you're in school, make sure that you uh, do everything. I know I try and say this to the youngsters a lot: do everything, do whatever it takes to release every single desire that you have. Because once you start specializing, you should specialize. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and that's something that I did not totally have growing up. I loved sports. I love rugby. I love football. I love all sorts of sports. So when I became a professional football, I mean, uh, track and field athlete, I wanted to still do football. I still wanted to play rugby. I still wanted to play touches with friends and stuff like that, which was not healthy for me as a sports person. And now I had to sit out 2 years playing something that was far off from what I've conditioned my body for each and every day. And that's why I think when you come to school and stuff like that, it's very important for you to do whatever you want, go wherever you want to go. Because when it comes to something like, I'm now an adult and I now need to focus on where I want to go, you know that you've enjoyed yourself with all sorts of other things. I know this is a sports example, but I'm sure you can apply it to life. You know what I mean? And it's something that I guess I had to learn years after, but it's something that now, uh, not still being young enough to compete for another few more years, that I don't want to take for granted for the upcoming few years that I still have uh, in track and field.
Can we move on that note to your injury? Because you mentioned sitting out now 2 years because of something that happened so quickly. Just talk me
Yeah,
through, firstly, just the injury itself. What exactly happened, and then how have you gone into recovery since then?
yeah. Well, as you know, it's no secret that I went out, played a touch rugby, a charity match, and like I've mentioned also earlier, coming off of 4 years of world championships, Olympic Games, world championships again, and diamond leagues, and week in and week out of high quality competition, it was probably not a wise decision to go and do that after so much years of just hard work and hard uh, training and so on. And also, as you would know, my body was far from being conditioned to go play a charity touch rugby match. I am designed and I am
Well,
trained to the the straight running thing. You know what I mean? So then I just came through one day, did movements that my body has not trained for, that my body is not conditioned for, and that led to me being injured. And led to me being in this position where I am right now, where I'm fighting a comeback, coming back stronger and feeling stronger, and having to go through a life changing period of my life, which I'm not taking for granted, obviously, because there's so much that I can learn from this now. There's so much that I can achieve from this now. So for me now, it's all about using this second chance to the best of my ability. And I guess for you wanting to obviously go into deeper detail on the injury and so on, ACL. So you know ACL works, which is 12, 12 months before you feel safe to go back into sports and so on. And it was definitely a roller coaster. I mean, the first year was okay because it was Commonwealth Games and it's not one of the major competitions for us as track and field athletes. So I could put that aside. But then when it started coming to the major competitions like World Championships, and I ended up missing that as well. And then Olympics creeping up this year towards us, I wanted to be ready for it. I wanted to be 110% ready for it. And then that obviously, unfortunately, did not happen again. And now I'm working towards the next one and the next one and the next one. But I've came to a point now where it's no longer about waiting for Olympics or waiting for World Championships, but when I get the opportunity, I'm about to achieve what I've been working for. So even if it has to be any random meeting anywhere in the world, me breaking my world record is what I'm working towards, and that's where I want to achieve it against the best in the world. So whenever I have that opportunity again, I need to make sure that I'm 100% ready for it.
The ACL tear, when you said 12 months, and that's generally what the advice is. Obviously, you've been to some of the best doctors worldwide, but why do you think we see with rugby players tearing ACLs coming back after 6 to 8 months, and then why did you take a year and a half, 2 years to recover fully?
I think like for rugby players, after 6 months, after 6 to 9 months, that's when they return to sports. You can still hide behind a few guys. You can still stay behind a few guys and just like, yo, have my back. I'm not feeling 100% yet. Coach, I'm not 100% fit yet. Please, can I have this percentage of responsibilities? Because, I mean, that's why we also see a lot of athletes or rugby players continuously hurting themselves because they'll come back after 6 months and then go fully out again for it. And then they've all of a sudden hurt a quad or hurt a hip or hurt something else. And I guess that's the demand of a rugby or the rugby expectations from the guys. And with me, I can't hide behind anyone. If the gun goes, the fastest man wins. And I think maybe that's why mine has taken a bit longer and taken a bit more time. I mean, last year, within that 6 to 9 months, I did show signs of that speed again, but I was nowhere close to what I know I should be at. So I could have probably competed against a few guys in South Africa, but as soon as you had to put me now into the big leagues where I'm expected to run a 43, I'd probably end up tearing a hamstring or tearing a quad or a hip or something. And we had to gradually be wise about it and smart about it, saying this is the steps that we need to take to get to where we want to be.
The injury happened, what year was that? 2017, 2018?
17, I think. Just so, the end of 2017. Yeah.
End of 2017. So then you kind of gradually go through the operation, you start the rehab. How long into that process did you actually start running again?
Look, from day one, there was attempts to get myself back walking, then cycling, then jogging, and then running. You know what I mean? So from day one, our motive was to obviously get back running, but there's principles and there's, I guess, steps that you need to respect. So I know within 2 months I had to challenge myself, or not even 2 months, few weeks, I had to challenge myself to go without crutches. You know what I mean? And then from there, I had to see how far I can walk. There was a stage where I struggled walking 100 meters, and I was like, wow, like I need to be ready for a 400 meters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I had to shift my mind, I had to shift my mentality, I had to shift everything towards running again. So we took baby steps. We definitely took our time, but within a few months, we always tried to introduce a bit of running and introduce what the body is used to, because that's where you want to be at. But as you know, uh, things like a meniscus tear takes its own time to heal. Things like your leg extension is something you don't want to force, but you also need to constantly practice it, because you don't want to have your leg locked and go for a re-op or whatever else. So these were things that I constantly had to consider when walking, when running, when so on. So I think, thankfully for me, it was something that I wasn't pressured into, but it was something that was a goal each and every day for us. You know what I mean? So we listened to my body. I know I don't have the exact times and dates right now, but I know that we've listened to my body since day one to see, okay, your body's now ready for the next step. Your body's now ready for the next step. And I think that's worked quite well for me, because I mean, this year when I finally, I mean, even last year I had signs of it, but this year I could say when I finally had the opportunity to run the way I wanted to run, I ran a 10 and a 20.3, and that's what most or what every other top athlete opens up with. So it definitely gave me a lot of confidence, and it gave me a lot of motivation towards what the year had in store for me. But obviously then the pandemic happened, and we had to reset our entire structures and everything. So it's basically starting from scratch again, which is not easy, but it's something that we had to work on.
And can you talk a little bit about some of the mental or psychological things you went through dealing with this injury and the pressures of returning and just the
Yeah.
failures and the setback?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it earlier as well. Was for me to try and find that peace within this entire chaos, and that's where my spiritual side I had to dig into a lot, because um, obviously with an injury comes a lot of chaos, comes a lot of fear, comes a lot of doubt, comes a lot of questions, comes a lot of negativity, and I had to find a peace. And for me, that peace was my hard work. For me, that peace was meditating in the Lord, meditating in the Word. For me, that peace was my controllable, what I am gifted with, what I can do, what I'm capable of. I know that I've achieved what I've achieved today, not even putting in the hard work that I am right now. So that gave me a lot of motivation, and it gave me a lot of uh, 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 kind of a confidence booster to say that, hey, before the injury, you were going through this with pure talent and gift, and now you have the opportunity to work for what you want and where you want to be. So I think moments like that, and periods like that, working through stuff like that, it creates a total different animal. I mean, even I can feel it now when I make decisions for myself, when I go towards something, and when I commit towards something, it's serious. I'm committing to something proper, and it's something that I don't take lightly. And I think this injury, I guess, has been a blessing, which obviously all of us wish that that blessing can come without the difficulties. But a lot of time, difficulties comes our way, and that's when we learn.
So can we expect to see you back better than you've ever been?
I believe so. I mean, my dreams and my goals is to improve every single area of me as a track athlete. I've mentioned breaking my record again, and I've meditated on wanting to break my record again. That's all I work on. That's all I put effort in. I mean, I invest in me to be able to break that record again, and that's the only thing that I've fixed my mind on, and my heart.
And do you use any mental skills to chase those dreams? I know you've mentioned setting goals quite often. What other type of mental skills like visualization and imagination, and you've mentioned meditating on the word of the
Yeah.
Lord and things. What other mental skills do you use on a daily basis?
I think, I guess it's in the moment type of things. Through experience, obviously, a lot of things come up. So it's all about. I'm someone who's very quick to adjust to my circumstance, or to adjust my mentality or my mind towards what I'm currently facing, and that's something that helped me a lot. I don't know if it could be a mental skill or whatever else, but that's helped me a lot. And obviously, I do take time to see uh, someone, to communicate with the psychologist mentally and so on, which I feel is very important for us. But I feel the word has definitely been a powerful source for me, because even when I speak to a psychologist, that's what we draw towards. That's what gets me going. I mean, the Bible has been something that's only been good to me, and it's something that's only given me uh, great feedbacks, motivating feedbacks, and so on. You just have to interpret it in the right way and educate yourself and research yourself proper. And I think that helped a lot. I mean, I'd love to beat around the bush and give you some uh, wow factor type of answer, but the word has been my strength, and it's been my uh, area of strength, which brought me out of so much difficulties, and mentally taken me out of so much dark places. And uh, I wouldn't be doing it justice to try and find any other sort of miraculous wow factor pointer, if I could put it that way. I feel the word has been that for me.
I think that is a wow factor. It's not an answer, I get very often. And what it seems to me is that you're really embodying the mind, the spirit, and the body. You're working harder than ever on your body and on your fitness and your skill set, but you're also working with a psychologist on the mindset and spiritually
Yeah,
with you and the Lord. So it's quite special.
thanks, man.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the pressures that you deal with in sport? Obviously, running in front of a crowd is a massive pressure. The expectations are pressure. But are there other things that we don't know about? Maybe pressures from sponsors or expectations and things.
Look, I must admit, I've been very blessed with with the correct associations. Like, from the moment I got hurt, I've been supported. I've been positively uh, encouraged on a regular basis when it came to sponsors and stuff like that. My biggest pressure was definitely myself. I'm the one that has to wake up every day to get a job done. And when I did not get that job done the way I would have loved to, I probably criticized myself the hardest, because I'm very aware of what's going on around me. I'm very aware of 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 situations around me. So when these things are highlighted, I'm very sensitive to it, and I become very critical towards where I want to go and what I want to achieve. So I feel my biggest challenge and my biggest critic was myself. It's something that till today you have to work on. It's something that uh, I guess a lot of us struggle with, but it's something that if you don't have it, I guess you probably won't grow, because you need to be accountable to something. And if you're not accountable to yourself, then where are you going in life?
You just mentioned that you need to grow, and it sounds like you've got an exceptionally big focus on the growth mindset. Can you talk about how important that is? Maybe a young person is listening to this, and to them, it's all about being the best right now at the age of 10 or 12. Just speak a
Uh,
bit about a growth mindset and how that's helped you succeed.
yeah. Look, being a sports person, you might socially achieve something amazing, but let's be honest, you've never, or I have never reached the point where I say, I don't see room for improvement. I don't see how I can do better in this place or that place. I mean, obviously, it's more passion or motivation. So if I say, I feel like um, I have reached my point on reading a specific book, that's because that was probably not my passion to finish it or my motivation to finish it. But when it comes to something that you're gifted in or something that you're good at, you will always find an area or space where you know you've been lacking. Um, there is probably a possibility of you lying to yourself or trying to believe something that's not true. But the reality is, for me, I don't know if the next person can resonate with this, but for me personally, every year I feel like I haven't given it my best. But whenever I look back at it, I can see growth. You know what I mean? So if you're growing and you know that you haven't given your 100% yet, then obviously there is room for more improvement. There is room for better. There is room for growth. And I feel it's very important for you to be aware of that and to take that seriously and not take it lightly, and just make sure that you invest in the right places to improve that. I mean, before I broke the world record, I thought to myself, wow, like, did I really break a record? And I basically just started off my career. And if I look at the greats before me, all broke the records at a later stage or like later age, where now I'm reaching that area where all the greats have broke records. So does that not mean I have a lot of room for improvement? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's very important for you to look at your environment and to look at yourself and to always do that retrospection through who you are and what you are, to see that, hey, I have room for improvement. You might think I've given it my all physically, but mentally, have you? Is your friends the right ones that you should be associated with? For me, spiritually, have I went through the word enough? Uh, Another emotional factor would be, are you having the right relationships with your friends and families? I mean, a lot of people think, no, the physical is the only thing. No, there's so much room for improvement in so much areas. You just need to find those important areas for yourself. You know what I mean? Have I improved that? I mean, if your relationship with your dad is 100%, then obviously that would be a weight off your shoulders to improve yourself in a different area.
And that comes back to the holistic viewpoint that you've been taking on getting better at everything you do. It's holistic. You want to be the best type of Wayde you can be holistically, not just as an athlete, but as a person and in your relationships and your associations. So on top of that, I want you to just chat a bit about mentorship and who have been some of the mentors in your life, and what role does mentorship play in someone like your life?
Mhm. Look, I would love to say person A and B, like I mentioned, my father, stepdad earlier. But the reality is that you meet so much great people in your life where you kind of steal a bit of attributes from, be it something simple like how you've greeted someone, or how you've thanked someone, or a act of humility, or act of kindness, or act of respect, or a quality of traits that stood out for you in sports, or a trait that stood out for you as a educator or as a mentor or whatever else. I feel like there's been so much people within my entire life that um, has contributed to who Wade is today and what I stand for and what I believe in. These are all attributes and qualities that I've somewhat stolen from other people or others that I've been associated with, and that's the reality of it. I mean, be it something cool like you've seen someone that always just has a cool, relaxed, calm persona, and you really attracted to that, so you've decided to meditate on that for yourself. or you've seen someone running quite fast and now you want to be the next fastest guy in the world, so you invest as much time as possible to make sure that I'm the next fastest man in the world. There's so much attributes that contribute to who I am today, and it will be difficult to just highlight one individual.
Yeah, but that doesn't take away from the importance of your relationships with your coach and obviously your dad and your mom and things.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my family and friends are always my first people that I throw towards, and the people that means the most to me. So obviously that's been a big inspiration and motivational factor for me.
Have you been able to do any proper training with your coach during lockdown or not really?
Um, it was difficult until now. This last 2 or 3 weeks when I started being able to reach out to them in a more uh, personal way. Before that, it was obviously more track, and it was more um, video calls and Zooms and discussions over videos and stuff like that. Where now, obviously, I can have a more uh, interactive relationship with they working on my postures, working on uh, what needs to improve, working on my weaknesses and stuff like that, which helps a lot. Obviously, during lockdown, uh, you might not feel good today, and then you don't go through with a training session the way you should have, or a rep has become difficult, and you convince yourself during that difficult time that, hey, let's stop this rep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think now it's at a stage now again where I can get back to working hard and pushing through, because uh, now I have something, I guess, to work towards. During lockdown, it was a bit difficult because you're very unsure on where we're going next, what's happening next. Should I train? Should I not train? You know what I mean? It became very difficult, and now that I guess there's somewhat of a light, or a little bit of a light. Uh, Obviously, the pandemic is not close to being done yet, but there's a little bit of light of inspiration or encouragement. You now again have something to work towards.
Can you talk a little bit about when you are setting up for a race on I want to say match day, but race day, you've got obviously quite a lot of time. A lot of times you run late in the evening. What is your daily routine, and then kind of your pre-race routine mentally that you go through?
Yeah. Um, I'm someone who does as little as possible for the, let's say, the 2 days before a race. I do as little as possible, even if it means watching movies all day long, staying in bed, taking long baths, uh, listening to music on my own. Like, I try and keep things as simple as possible, to use as little as possible energy that I can, so that when I get onto the track, it's just me giving my 100%. It's one of the things that my coach and I struggled with a bit, or tussled a bit, because she would have wanted me to go do a bit of light run throughs or strides or drills or whatever else, and I was like, nah, coach, I feel happy, just leave me. And but obviously with time, I wanna over her seeing that I'm that 2 days of recovery or so on. But at the same time, I'm also very obedient to what she wants. If she feels, but I need to go loosen up, I needed to go do this, I needed to go do that a day before the race, or 2 days before the race, then I'll obviously be obedient to that, because she has reasons behind it or so on. But at the same time, we listen to each other on a continuous basis. But for me as an athlete, or as a person, I keep it as minimal as possible. So it's breakfast, lunch, and supper, and in my room, in a closed room, dark room, just switching off, meditating on what I want, where I want, and sometimes even just trying to get my mind away from the fact that I have to race, because I have, prior to the competition, let's say, period, put in all the hard work already. So I am fit enough to run. I am strong enough to compete. Mentally, I just need to keep my mind sane and calm and relaxed, so that when I get into that environment of it's now time to compete, and when the gun goes, you need to run. That I am now switched on and fully aware of where I'm at.
So where in that point do you start saying, well, I've got to start focusing on what I'm eating. I've got to start focusing on the amount of sleep I'm getting. Is that the 2-3 days before, or is that something you just kind of take in your stride and not focus on?
Yeah, I think it's something that you need to focus on way before all of that. I mean, you don't want to come on D-Day and shove everything in that last minute. So obviously, nutrition was one of my weaknesses. So it's something that I've gradually been working on from day one, just improving it on a constant basis and so on. So it becomes a lifestyle, not just something that I need to sharpen up when it's race time. You know what I mean? I've seen a lot of athletes that, athletics is done now, let's drink ourselves insane. But it should be something that you practice on a daily basis. It should be something that becomes part of your lifestyle, part of who you are. And I mean, a lot of athletes are obedient to that. It's a lot of athletes can relate to the fact that we have our weaknesses, but we need to improve it on a daily basis. And before you know it, you're eating perfectly fine on a regular without you having to put yourself under pressure about it.
So what does your diet look like? What type of nutrition do you take in?
I'm not a good supplement consumer. It makes me very paranoid. So I have distanced myself totally from uh, any sorts of supplements and so on. But I think pure natural foods. I love just natural foods, be it fruits, veggies. Just obviously, my wife as well has been helping me now and educating me now on what those foods, different foods contain and what they have and how it helps you and how it can help you recover, how it can help you uh, build something as muscle and how to, you know what I mean? Like natural
Yeah.
foods, exactly the same things as in supplements, you know what I mean? So I just had to find ways to structure the meals that my body needs into my everyday breakfast, lunch, and supper. Obviously, you do get your cheat days. I mean, you're gonna crave a burger, you're gonna crave KFC, you're gonna crave whatever else. But um, as long as you stay true to where you're going and what you want to achieve, and not make that a constant in your life, especially nutritionally, you can't, as a professional athlete, just eat McDonald's and KFC every day. You know what I mean? You need to know that priority would be eating healthy and consuming the correct things. And then from there, you can spoil yourself now and then with cheat days.
And then obviously you can take that mindset straight into competition. You don't have to change a whole lot of things with your eating habits and stuff before you compete.
Exactly. And I mean, I think that's kind of the structure that I went with from day one, because it should become my everyday decisions and routines.
On that note, because you've just mentioned a word, that was my next question. How important do you think having a routine is in the discipline for an athlete? Because looking at a whole bunch of people I've interviewed, all the top athletes in their field, they're quite strict on their intrinsic
Yeah.
motivation. There's something that pushes them from the inside to stick to their routines and stick to their discipline.
Uh-huh. I think a routine becomes a natural or a constant in your life either way. You know what I mean? Like schedule the routine on, obviously the training is this time, eat this time, uh, stretch this time, do this time, that time, that. These things becomes a constant in our life, because obviously you're accountable to a lot of other people's time and a lot of other people's um, expectations of you. If I could use this lockdown as an example, where you somewhat lose uh, track of your routine. But now we look at something like a normal day, everyday training. You need to be on the track a certain time because your training group is there, your coach is there, uh, and you need to eat a certain time because you don't want to be hungry during training. you need to sleep a certain time because you don't want to be tired uh, for your first thing in the morning type of training session. And that's something that you can obviously adjust on a day to day, all depending on the expectations of you. I mean, when I'm at home, uh, I would have to structure my day for an early morning. But when I'm in Europe, I can structure my day more freely because everything is focused on training and competing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it is very much part of who we are, and it comes natural to the game. And it's something that is a constant in what we do.
I want to just shift gears a little bit and talk about, we've spoken a lot about the past and you as a person. What is going forward? What is the next stuff, the next steps for you?
Going forward for me, I think career wise is breaking my record again. I definitely want to go sub 43. That's what I've been working on, and where I've shifted all my focus on. But at the same time, I want to sharpen up my 100 and 200 to be up there with the world's best, to compete against the greats in the world. Uh, Personally, beyond that, very attracted to property and so on. So I've been searching or reaching or investing in properties and so on, and educating myself on that. And I mean, I've got a lot of other dreams and aspirations as well, but I'm very much focused on track right now and where that can take me within this next 10 years.
So when is your, with the lockdown, it's obviously difficult, but when is the next kind of event that you're going to be running in, your next international event? And then the build up to Olympics, if it's going to happen next year, what is your kind of program looking like?
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, man. Also on that, I have training, like, supposed to have training soon, so I just need
Yeah,
to prep for that.
sure.
So can close soon. But
Yeah, sure.
yeah, on the next competitions and so on, we have scheduled meetings now the end of this year. I think after August and so on. But we all need to now wait and see when we are allowed to leave the country, and when it's most safe to leave the country, and what are the expectations of us to safely move around and travel again. So we're all waiting for those confirmations and those uh, final decisions and so on, and then from there we'll take it from there. I mean, I've seen a few European competitions going ahead already, and I've heard of some competition times and stuff already out there. So there is meetings going on. It's really just now about us as South Africans to see when we are able and capable to travel again.
Sure. I want to end off with a couple of questions that I like to ask all my guests. I know you've got to run, time got a bit away from me. Sorry about that. Um,
Sure.
the first one is, I think we've touched on this actually, is any daily practices you put in place to help you keep your discipline. So obviously something like meditation or prayer or stretching, just something you do every day that you use as
I try to touch on everything, but not close to consistent in everything. You know what I mean? So um, a constant is to try and be consistent in the things that means or that is important to me. So uh, even if it is something as meditation through the word, uh, I mean, you've mentioned it. Meditation, I'm trying to get consistent. Stretching, I'm trying to get consistent. Training, I'm trying to get consistent. Uh, Investing in educating myself, I'm trying to get consistent. So there's so much factors in my life that I'm trying to get consistent, but obviously not close to there yet, but trying to master them all.
cool. And right now, what would you say are the 5 most important things to you in your life?
5 most important things for me in my life would be love. So do I love the people around me? Do I love what I'm doing? Uh, is there love involved in what I'm doing and where I'm directing myself to? Secondly, would be obviously family and friends. Uh, and then when it comes to my faith, would definitely be uh, kindness, humility, respect. these are all things that I try to apply to my day-to-day life. Yeah, I mean, I can mention so much factors similar to the question before this that I try and make a constant in my life. Even if it comes to something like considering others. I mean, these are things that keeps me going, that gets me ticking. So yeah, those are, I don't know if I've hit 5, but those are qualities that attracts me.
Yeah. And then lastly, are there any good books you've recently read or read in your life that you would recommend to people?
The last time I read a proper book was probably in school.
Okay.
Not good with books. I'm the type that I've read a lot of introductions of books, but I never get.
Okay, cool. So if there's anything else you'd like to say, maybe a message out there to the people of South Africa, otherwise we can end it off.
No, man, I'm very basic, very simple. I mean, if we touch on a few aspects that's very sensitive in South Africa today, would be uh, gender-based violence, and also uh, discrimination on skin colors, that which we're all experiencing right now. Is really to just let's consider one another. Let's try and be human beings to one another, consistent human beings to one another. And let's love and protect. Let's not destroy something that uh, I personally try and apply to my life. And I mean, I get asked a lot of questions on rivals, being a sports person, rivals, and beating people and wanting to be the king of the jungle and wanting to be the best on the track and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, everyone is living a life. Everyone is working hard. Everyone is trying to improve their lives and trying to be the best that they can be. And who am I to want to break that next person down? So always consider one another, let's empower one another, and especially as South Africans, let's have each other's backs. I mean, there's no use us breaking each other down. You're just breaking yourself down and highlighting insecurities within you. So
Yeah.
that's just me touching on the reality that we're living in today. And yeah, man, one love, and just always respect each other.
Wayde, thanks so much, man. You've been an inspiration before this and after this even more so. Thanks for the work you're doing off the track at the moment, and good luck with everything you're going through and for the season coming up. And yeah, we're definitely going to be watching closely. And yeah, thanks again, man. Appreciate your time.
Blessings. Take care.
Cheers, brother. Go well.